Oh, I was muted. What do you know? Welcome to the Raw Feed. We're streaming live to millions worldwide on YouTube, Rumble, and X. And you need to follow us on all those platforms to stay ahead of these censors. Now, before we dive into today's explosive revelations, I do need to address something that's heavy on all of our hearts. The tragic shooting in Minneapolis today reminds us that evil still walks among us. Early reports indicate that the shooter was Robin Westman, who identified as transgender and whose mother worked at Annunciation Catholic School, where this horrific attack took place. Now, we're continuing to monitor the developing story, and disturbingly, the Minneapolis mayor appears to be more focused on protecting the narrative around the killer than addressing the harsh reality of what happened to those innocent children. President Trump has ordered flags at the White House lowered to half staff in honor of the victims. And we want you to join us in praying for the victims, their families, and everyone affected by this senseless violence. Now, I do want to bring up a point here, because as we gather in prayer for these people who've lost their lives, the families affected, the children, this is the rhetoric that is coming directly from MSNBC right now.
As an elected official, you are on the ground with your folks and you appreciate this journey. I agree with the mayor. I'm not, the thoughts and prayers, I'm so beyond that nonsense, the lie of that. Because what we have are people who continue to stand in the way of actually doing something to stop the violence against their own kids. It is amazing to me. We watch young kids die in classrooms and now in church, and all we get are thoughts and prayers. That's
what we do. In moments like this, we turn to God, because He is our only strength in these times of crisis. And in moments like these, we are reminded that beyond politics, we are all Americans, all human beings who need to come together in prayer and support, despite what the talking heads on MSNBC would instruct you. So please keep Minneapolis in your thoughts and prayers throughout today's show. Now, moving into the program, what sets the Raw Feed apart is that we don't just talk at you, we interact with you in the live chat, getting your real-time reactions to the day's news. So share the stream via text message to bypass the algorithm for our ex-viewers. Repost this show to your followers right now. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and hit that share and send it out to your friends and family. We will be reading your super chats and Rumble rants between segments if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. We'll feature your comments directly on screen for the entire world to see, so send them in before the show even begins. You can also join our YouTube channel memberships for exclusive acknowledgement in the chat room, exclusive access to the Next News team, behind-the-scenes uploads, and our members-only 24/7 Discord chat. Each level comes with its own perks. You can also check out our merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, link below. We've got Alligator Alcatraz, President Otto Penn, and our American Badass series. Show off your favorite news source with pride. Now, today marks a historic parallel that would make the Founding Fathers stand and cheer. On August 27, 1776, George Washington's Continental Army suffered its worst defeat at the Battle of Long Island. The British thought that they'd crushed the revolution, but Washington executed a brilliant midnight escape across the East River, saving the Continental Army and keeping freedom's flame alive. Today, 249 years later, we are witnessing another escape from tyranny, not from British rule, but from the unelected banking cartel that is strangling our republic for over a century. And Roger Stone turns 73 years old today. And like Washington crossing the Delaware, he's leading us through the fog of war with truth bombs that terrify the establishment. The man who helped elect 3 presidents joins us today with revelations that prove Trump has engineered the ultimate constitutional checkmate against the Federal Reserve. And Trump's move to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook for mortgage fraud, it's not just about one corrupt official, it's about exposing the entire unconstitutional foundation of private bankers controlling our money. Either Trump can fire her, or the Fed itself is illegal. There's no escape from this logic trap. And if you want to support the show privately, you can hit those donation links in the description. Yes, we still accept fiat currency here. Every dollar keeps independent media alive in the face of unprecedented attacks. Meanwhile, Chicago burns while its mayor plays politics, refusing Trump's help 5 times on live TV. Thailand betrays our peace deals while taking China's silver. Soros facing RICO charges as his protest army crumbles. And Union Station is transforming and proving that when Trump acts, order returns. So just as Washington's darkest hour became his greatest triumph, Trump has turned the establishment weapons against them. The Fed thought they were untouchable. Thailand thought that we were weak. Chicago's corrupt leaders thought they could let their city burn without consequences. Soros thought his money made him immune to justice. Well, they were all wrong. So today on Roger Stone's birthday, we're not just celebrating a patriot. We are witnessing the culmination of a 45-year war against the deep state. Roger Stone survived their persecution. Trump survived their attacks. And now together they are delivering the knockout blow to the banking cartel that enslaved America since 1913. Ron Paul would be proud. The audit he demanded for decades has evolved into something much bigger, exposing the Fed as fundamentally unconstitutional. The revolution that Washington saved is now reaching its climax. So stay tuned. Let's welcome you to the show. Who is in the house today? We got Todd and B and Say and Maureen. Who else is in the house? We got Michael and Tonia as well. Let's see who is joining us on the raw feed tonight. Super Dork is here. When will it be Bill Gates' turn? Yes, we're all waiting for that too. Cindy in New York. Pooh Voon is here. Who else is in the house today? We got Mom Barath, Karen Finley. We've got, let's see here, Shane DeYoung. Looks like we have a super chat from Curio23. My fear of moving stairs is escalating. Oh my goodness. It never stops with this guy. Joseph Pearson is in the house as well. We got Maureen Carr, the one and only Ron the Don. Everybody is coming in fast and furious. We got big guys here, 10%. Cody in New York. We got Ravi, Sang, James, Sitha, Makara. The gang is all here. We got Tracy as well. Great to see you guys. We're going to get into our first topic of the evening because it is rather important that we just go ahead and bring Roger Stone in to this interview. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, Brian, we're just going to run right into it. All right. First, we have a historical multiple choice question. Who warned, "Give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes its laws"? Was it A, Mayor Amschel Rothschild, B, Jerome Powell's diary, C, the Monopoly Man, or D, Bernie Sanders? I'll let you guys weigh in the comments, the chat, or in the poll. Now let's get into it. A political icon turned 73 today, and he just joined us with revelations that will shake Washington to its core. Roger Stone, the man who helped put Nixon, Reagan, and Trump in the White House, exposed a constitutional crisis that could bring down the entire Federal Reserve System. He revealed how Trump's move to fire Lisa Cook for mortgage fraud creates an inescapable legal trap. Stone also dropped bombshells about Adam Schiff's identical fraud scheme, exposed Thailand's betrayal of Trump's peace deals, and explained why Jerome Powell's Fed renovation scandal proves the entire system is rotten to the core. You're about to witness the exclusive interview that will have the establishment in full panic mode, so keep on watching. Now, Roger Stone just turned 73, and like Chuck Norris at 84, he is proving age is just a number when you're fighting for America. And speaking of Chuck Norris, have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary martial artist? I recently saw a video he made. I was shocked. He's in his 80s, he's still kicking butt and staying active. What's even more shocking is he is stronger. He can work out longer and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing it, also feels better than ever. Now, Chuck made a special video that explains everything, so make sure you watch it at chuckdefense.com/next. You'll find it linked down below. And without further ado, let's go to my interview with Roger Stone. Today's a very special day. It's Roger Stone's 73rd birthday, and we have the political icon himself joining us for an explosive interview that only he could deliver. Roger Stone, the man who helped put Nixon, Reagan, and Trump in the White House, the strategist behind 700 campaigns over 45 years, the New York Times bestselling author who exposed LBJ killing Kennedy, the Bush crime family, and the Clintons' war on women, the survivor of the Russia hoax persecution, who President Trump rightfully pardoned. Roger's here with explosive revelations about the deep state's war on Trump, a war being fought on two fronts. At home, President Trump just triggered a constitutional crisis by moving to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook, forcing America to confront whether we're run by elected leaders or unelected bankers. Nancy Pelosi is panicked. Her response proves they know Trump has them cornered. And abroad, while Trump brokers peace deals, supposed allies like Thailand stab him in the back, violating his Cambodia ceasefire, while secretly buying submarines from China. When Cambodia went to Z for help, well, they got empty photo ops while Trump delivered real results through strength. It's all connected. The same forces undermining Trump's economic sovereignty are enabling our enemies overseas. Happy birthday, Roger Stone. Welcome back to the Next News Network.
Gary, great to be with you again. There is a certain irony that my birthday falls on August 27th, the exact same day as Lyndon Baines Johnson, the most epically corrupt and I think mentally unbalanced president in U.S. history. And you're right, using eyewitness evidence, fingerprint evidence, and deep Texas politics, I prove in my very first book, which became a New York Times bestseller, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ, that he was the ringleader of a, I hate this word, conspiracy that involved the Central Intelligence Agency, organized crime, big Texas oil, and certain other financial interests to kill John F. Kennedy.
Well, it all lines up. I've always considered him to be at the top of the list. Your book really just paints the picture, connects all those dots. I do want to talk about Trump's move to fire the Fed Governor Lisa Cook. It seems to create a constitutional checkmate. Either the president has the authority to remove her or the Fed itself is unconstitutional. How do you see this playing out?
Well, it's kind of interesting. So when Bill Pulte, who's the head of the Federal Home Finance Agency, moves to enforce the law, he's accused of targeting. Yet when they make up a completely fake narrative about Russia to try to take down Donald Trump, why, that's viewed as a legitimate investigation. I think the facts here are very clear. The President of the United States has the authority to fire a federal board governor for cause. What is cause? Cause in this case is egregious mortgage fraud. In this case, Lisa Cook claimed that her home in Ann Arbor, Michigan was her principal legal residence. That means she got a state tax break, she got a lower mortgage rate, and a lower insurance rate. And then, Gary, just 2 weeks later, she claimed that her home outside of Atlanta was her principal legal residence. Once again, she got a state tax break, she got a lower mortgage rate, and she got a lower insurance rate. Now, this is what is known as mortgage fraud. Literally, thousands of people are referred by the housing officials at FHFA to the Justice Department for this crime every single year. You don't hear about it because they're not prominent, they're not well known. But the elites, like Lisa Cook, like Jerome Powell, they seem to think that they're above the law. Also caught in the same net, as you know, is Adam Shifty Schiff, the single greatest hustler, huckster, con man, and fraudster in the history of the U.S. Congress. This is a guy who told us repeatedly that he had seen more than circumstantial evidence of Russian collusion with President Trump's 2016 campaign. And of course, he never produced anything of the kind because, as we now know, thanks to the courage of Tulsi Gabbard and the direction of President Donald Trump, all of the documents have been declassified, at least most of them. I think there are more bombshells to come, which prove definitively that this was a seditious conspiracy that was born in the Oval Office at the direction of Barack Obama with the assistance of Vice President Joe Biden. It involved the National Security Advisor, Susan Rice. It involved the FBI Director, James Comey. It involved one of the principal orchestrators of this charade, CIA Director John Brennan, but also culpable are Special Counsel Robert Mueller, the de facto head of the Mueller witch hunt, Andrew Weissman, probably the single most corrupt federal prosecutor in U.S. history, as well as others, including James Clapper, who was then the director of national intelligence. This is not conjecture. This is not investigative reporting. They are busted by their own words in their own classified documents and emails. And the most interesting thing to me, Gary, is Hillary Clinton approved the entire ruse from the beginning. Yes. It's there in black and white. One of her aides says HRC has approved. I think that stands for Hillary Rotten Clinton.
Okay, so
as a way to distract from her illegal email server.
Since you brought that up, Julia Smith was the one who who basically came up with this idea that Hillary Clinton then sold to Barack Obama. Now, a lot of our viewers, a lot of people think we're never going to see any accountability for any of these people. We did just see John Bolton get his house raided by the FBI. Some say that's one of the major big dominoes, the first dominoes to fall, sending a message across the bow to the deep state. But in the case of Julia Smith, as she was noted in that email as the inception point for that and the Russiagate scandal, do you think that maybe they'll just use her as a sacrificial lamb?
Well, my guess is once you start putting these people under pressure, once they start to have to appear in grand juries, not in Washington, D.C., but say in South Florida, because I think this was an ongoing seditious conspiracy. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I've talked to some very good attorneys who believe that this seditious conspiracy to engage in treason, to undo the results of the 2016 election, started in 2016, continued into 2017, continued all the way to the election of 2020, in which Tulsi Gabbard now tells us she's examining substantial evidence of fraud and irregularities in that election, continuing right up until 2023 and 4, when they raided Mar-a-Lago. What were they looking for? They were looking for these documents, the Crossfire Hurricane documents. They were looking for the documents that would prove their guilt. These are the documents that John Bolton talked President Trump out of declassifying in the brief period in which he was the national security advisor. These are the documents that I think they raided Mar-a-Lago to try to get back because they prove their guilt. These are the documents that Tulsi Gabbard has now declassified. So I think...
And even Devin Nunes has also made that same allegation.
That is true. But now I think you have absolute definitive proof in their own words. These aren't our documents. These are their documents. And therefore, I believe, based on my own sources, that there are already grand juries hearing testimony in Washington, in New York, in South Florida, and I think there will be indictments. And then once you start talking to people, it's only a question of who rolls first. I mean, at his age, I don't think James Clapper, who, by the way, left government to go teach ethics at Vermont College. Something rich about that.
Well, you broke the story about Brennan going to Austria, and then he went to Ireland. What's the story there? He's fleeing the country.
I think he knows that he's in deep trouble. I mean, first of all, this is a guy whose arrogance knows no bound. He's an admitted communist. He admitted that in a polygraph test. He said he voted for the Communist Party candidate for president. He said he was a member of the party. How does such a person become the head of our largest international intelligence agency? He is the same man who, as the CIA station chief in Riyadh, signed the visas for 4 of the men who they tell us attacked America on 9/11. John Guandolo, who's an entirely credible former FBI counterterrorism expert, says that Brennan converted to radical Islam, specifically to radical Wahhabism, when he was in Saudi. This is a guy who got caught red-handed spying, wiretapping, and spying and hacking a Senate committee that was investigating his use of illegal torture as the CIA director. So he has a storied history, and we now know, based on these documents, that he knew that the so-called Steele dossier, which was a report fabricated at the expense of Hillary Clinton, which alleged falsely that President Donald Trump had dallied with Russian prostitutes when visiting Moscow as a private businessman. He knew it was a fraud, yet he insisted on inserting it into Barack Obama's daily intelligence community assessment, although he tried to hide it in a footnote so no one would ever know, because they used it as their rationale, as their probable cause for the launching of Crossfire Hurricane, the counterintelligence operation designed to undo the 2016 election. They also used it as the rationale to appoint Robert Mueller to the witch hunt, which turned my life upside down, not to mention my good friend General Michael Flynn, not to mention, of course, President Donald Trump himself, Paul Manafort, Rudy Giuliani, and others.
George Papadopoulos, too. Yeah.
George Papadopoulos, among others, Carter Page. So they used the same fake report. And by the way, Hillary Clinton's campaign tried to disguise the payments for the Steele dossier as legal payments. They got caught. They paid a very substantial fine to the FEC. That's not as punitive as what they tried to do to Donald Trump, of course. But look, it's all out there for people to see. It can no longer be denied. What's funny is that now, when Lisa Cook is being held accountable for an obvious act of mortgage fraud, Adam Schiff, who claims that his condominium in Burbank is his principal legal residence, at the same time he claims his home in Potomac, Maryland is his principal legal residence. Again, getting a tax break in both states, getting a lower mortgage rate in both states, getting a lower insurance rate in both states. And when confronted, he says, no, that's all made up. That's all made up. No, it's there. Any citizen, Gary, can go online. These documents are all public documents. These aren't secrets. The only thing that's made up is the Russian collusion. That was made up by Adam Schiff.
Okay, I want to get back to the Fed because I got this clip here of the Treasury Secretary, but you bring up Adam Schiff, and I'm curious as to your thoughts on the challenging of his pardon. Could he actually face an indictment to challenge the pardon, challenge the auto pen? Could there be an entire new thread that could take down Adam Schiff all the way up to the auto pen scandal?
It depends very much, of course, on the actual wording of his pardon. So, for example, when Richard Nixon was pardoned by President Gerald Ford, first of all, that proves that one does not have to be charged with a crime in order to be pardoned, or in order to accept a pardon. There's some misunderstanding about that. But in that case, Richard Nixon was pardoned for any crime he committed or may have committed during the time that he was president. I don't know what the exact wording of Adam Schiff's pardon is, but as you point out, when he's charged, and I believe he will be charged with mortgage fraud, he will argue in court, I presume, that he's immune from prosecution because of the pardon. The government's response will be your pardon is not valid because it was not signed by the President of the United States. It was signed by an auto pen. Then I guess you'd have to bring Joe Biden into court to tell us what he remembered. Now, Joe Biden thinks he lives on Mars and thinks he's Henry VIII. So who knows what he might say in court.
All right. Since we're talking about the mortgage fraud, let's check in with the Treasury Secretary here. Because he's made some explosive demands about the Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Let's watch what he is calling for now.
Pressure on the Fed, and there are people like is putting undue pressure on the Fed, and there are people like President Trump and myself who think that if a Fed official committed mortgage fraud, that this should be examined, and that they shouldn't be serving as one of the nation's leading financial regulators. And what we haven't heard from Ms. Cook is we haven't heard her say, "I didn't do it." We haven't heard her say, "I didn't do it." She just keeps saying the president can't remove her. The other thing, too, that I have called in the in the recent past for an internal review of all the Fed's operations, and I've encouraged Chair Powell to do this on an internal basis before there is an external review. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be addressed, because the Fed is an unaccountable institution, and its relationship with the American people depends on a high level of trust. And incidents like this puncture that trust. So President Trump is trying to make sure that anyone who serves at this institution has the trust of the American people.
And
Okay, so Bessent wants her prosecuted for mortgage fraud. Is this the cause that Trump needs to constitutionally remove her?
Now, I believe that it is. Now, remember, I'm speaking as a non-lawyer. First, let me say I think Scott Bessent is among the president's very best appointees. He's a libertarian. He's a believer in cryptocurrency. He's a believer in gold. He's an outside-the-box thinker. He's an incredible negotiator. He's deeply involved in these tariff negotiations, which, as you know, culminated in the month of June, being the first month in 15 years that the U.S. government actually ran a surplus due to the billions of dollars that these new tariff deals are bringing in. So I think Bessent is a brilliant, brilliant guy. Some say, oh, he used to work for George Soros. Yes, before Soros was in politics, he worked as a money manager, and he made billions of dollars for George Soros. That's the kind of guy I want managing U.S. money. That's the kind of guy I want managing our money. He's completely loyal to the president. His service to Soros is before Soros was ever involved in politics. No one, I think, has been more loyal to the president or more effective on behalf of the president's agenda. But the instance that he refers to, claiming that her home in Ann Arbor, Michigan, was her principal residence, and then just 2 weeks later saying that her home outside of Atlanta was her principal residence. This is textbook mortgage fraud. It's not just her, though, Gary. The key thing to understand is thousands of other people have been charged with this crime and will be charged with this crime. We just know about her because it's famous. And in asking for an audit of the Fed, who does Scott Bessent sound like? I think he sounds like Ron Paul, who's been calling for this for as long as I've known him. And he's absolutely right. These are unaccountable private bankers managing our economy. And the reason that this is important, it's not just Lisa Cook's seat. It is the fact that if she is removed for cause, which I believe the president has the authority to do, and which I believe the courts will uphold, because she clearly intends to challenge that, it would shift the balance on the Board of Governors from 5-4.
Preserving the health of our country.
It would shift the balance on the Board of Governors from 5-4 against an interest rate cut to 5-4 in favor of an interest rate cut. Now, the reason this is important is because the Federal Reserve is supposed to use two things to measure whether interest rates should be cut: the inflation rate and the unemployment rate. Well, right now, today, those two measures are either at the same level or substantially lower than they were the last 4 times the Federal Reserve cut interest rates on the American people. That would lead you to believe that they cut rates initially to try to help Joe Biden. Then they cut rates to try to help Kamala Harris. Didn't work. Now they don't want to cut rates because they're afraid it will help create a Trump boom economy. And if you combine it with the largest tax cut in American history that was embodied in the Big Beautiful Bill, and the fact that 88% of those in America who are receiving Social Security benefits will pay no tax on those benefits, plus doing away with the tax on tips, plus a lot of the regulatory cuts, this economy will take off like never before. Economy's already strong, contrary to what all those pointy-head, expert, intellectual establishment economists in Washington said. Oh, inflation will soar, unemployment will be out of control, the stock market will crash if Trump insists on better tariff deals. Gary, we have a record Dow margin right now. The dollar remains strong, inflation remains low, the economy's in good shape, but it will be in even better shape if we get an interest rate cut.
Well, somebody who's not in good shape is Nancy Pelosi. She's panicking about Fed independence. Let's watch her response and get your reaction.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of one of the bedrock principles of our economy, the independence of the Federal Reserve Board. For more than a century, the Federal Reserve has served as a cornerstone of the economic system of our country, tasked with safeguarding price stability, maximizing employment, preserving the health of our country, independent from political pressure, insulated from partisanship, and rooted in data and principle. Any of us who had economics in college or beyond knows that independence of the Fed is essential to the respect that our country commands in terms of our own economy throughout the world. The chairman of the Fed is the chair of the central bank, serves as a chair of the central banks globally, and it can't be a party hack.
Now, Roger, you tweeted, have another drink, you boozed up old witch. Beyond the humor, what's really at stake with Federal Reserve independence?
Well, Gary, I'm sorry for mincing words there and saying what I really thought. Look, she's absolutely right. Jerome Powell's not an economist. He's a lawyer to begin with. He's the one acting politically. She's absolutely right. They're supposed to be acting on the basis of the data, but they're not. They're acting politically. It's Jerome Powell who's acting politically by refusing to cut interest rates, despite the fact that the inflation rate and the unemployment rate would certainly merit it based on recent history. What's even more troubling to me, Gary, is the $2.5 billion renovation that's taking place on Jerome Powell's already palatial headquarters on Constitution Avenue in Washington, D.C. Now, Donald Trump has been in the construction business his entire life, as was his father, Bill Pulte, another one of the standout appointees, the head of the Federal Housing Finance Administration, comes from a long line of home builders, people in the construction industry. It's virtually impossible to figure out how they are spending $2.5 billion. But in his sworn testimony before the Senate, Chairman Jerome Powell said, there are no private elevators for the Fed board governors. There's not a private dining room for the federal board governors. There's no new marble. There are no new fountains, and there's no lavish roof garden. Gary, you can go online and see the approved construction plan. It includes all of those things, which means he lied under oath to Congress. But beyond that, today, that $2.5 billion represents a 70% cost overrun. So it's almost impossible to figure out how they can spend $2.5 billion while the average American can't get an interest rate cut to pay down their credit cards or to buy a home or to buy a car.
Well, we're looking at the footage here when President Trump made that revelation that you got, $3.1 billion cost overrun here at the Fed, totally catching him off guard, forcing his way in because he's the frickin' president of the United States. He can go ahead and do that. Now, Caroline Levitt just posted this 4 hours ago. She says, Powell's epiphany. Fed chair admits Trump was right about tariffs and inflation, but the Atlantic claims that Trump could achieve full-blown takeover of the Federal Reserve. I'm not against that. Isn't that exactly what the Constitution requires? Elected control over our money?
I actually have a much, much better idea. I think that the Federal Reserve Act should be completely and totally repealed. I don't. It's nowhere in our Constitution. It's nowhere in the Declaration of Independence. This is a private bank. So I would do away with it entirely. First, I'd audit it to see where the theft has been, but I think ultimately it should be repealed entirely. Right. This is why I'm fundamentally, after I'm a Trump Republican, I'm a Ron Paul Republican.
I love it. I love it. Roger, it's amazing. Now let's shift to Thailand. Supposed a U.S. ally, they're violating Trump's Cambodia ceasefire while buying submarines from China, fighter jets from Sweden. What does betrayal of a U.S. ally leaning on China tell you?
This is very, very deeply disturbing. Look, the president has an extraordinary record already. The greatest single title, that history can bestow is that of peacemaker. So whether you look at the situation between India and Pakistan, the situation between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the situation where we have a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, the situation where he ended one of the bloodiest and longest running wars between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, he reached an agreement and helped broker an agreement between Cambodia and Thailand. But it appears that the Thais are cheating. They are buying weapons from China. That wasn't part of the deal. There's some people who originally thought that this could devolve into a struggle in which we supported Thailand militarily, and the Chinese supported Cambodia. We don't want war. The point is, Trump is against war. He's against killing. But I think we have betrayal here by one of our allies. And Donald Trump has extended himself. Gary, in my opinion, he already merits the Nobel Peace Prize, just based on what he's already done. He's going to get a result in the war between Russia and Ukraine. This is not a simple matter. He does know a couple things. I've read The Art of the Deal. I'm sure you have as well. You don't negotiate in public. That he does know. And this has many moving pieces because you have our European allies. They want to continue the war. They just don't want to pay for it. They want you and I to pay for it. You have Zelensky, who wants to stay on the gravy train, even though he can't account for where hundreds of millions of dollars that we've already given him have gone. And of course, you have the Russians who have their own internal political pressures at home. So it's not a simple situation, but I guarantee you the president works every day to bring peace to the region, and ultimately I think he will be successful.
Now, Cambodia's PM went to Xi Jinping for help with Thailand and got nothing but a photo op. No pressure on Thailand, no consequences. How does this expose China's real agenda in Southeast Asia?
Well, I think Americans have to wake up to the fact that it's not Russia who's our greatest problem in the modern world. It's China. We talked about this yesterday on my show. The Chinese have a very, very sophisticated spying operation out of Cuba, just 90 miles from our shore. Military experts I respect, like General Michael Flynn or Colonel John Mills, who just joined the State Department as Assistant Secretary for Cyber Terrorism. They all agree that there are currently Chinese defensive missiles on the island of Cuba, but with very, very small technological changes, those missiles could become offensive missiles. It's another example of the fact that China, who we seem to be blindly letting buy up half the country, as the Chinese buy prime ranch land, farmland, airports, ports, toll roads, harbors, and other facilities here in the United States. I think it's time for a federal law that makes it illegal for anybody who's Chinese, or fronting for the Chinese, because under their system, everything belongs to the party, from buying up our prime assets. You can go to an Agriculture Department report, will tell you that the Chinese only control 370,000 acres in the United States. Gary, they have 390,000 acres in Oklahoma alone.
Insane.
So this is a huge issue. It's one that I hope the president will move aggressively on.
Well, what does China gain by destabilizing the region? I mean, Trump went in there, actually provided action. He said, listen, if you guys don't figure this out, we're going to tariff the shit out of both of you. So now Cambodia goes to China. China does nothing. It almost as if they want to see the region destabilized. And this is, in my opinion, a direct challenge to Trump's authority on the world stage. What do you say?
Well, let's recognize that Iran is a puppet state of China, that China is the #1 purchaser of Iranian oil. And the Chinese cannot be very happy about the fact that President Donald Trump, instead of getting sucked into a forever foreign war, decided instead to launch a surgical strike to go in and destroy their nuclear weapons development program, but withdraw very quickly, in which not a single American military person lost their life, which I think was, in the end, turned out to be the right decision. By the way, before he decided, like many others, I questioned whether it was the right thing to do. But now that I see what he saw, and I saw the successful consequences, and once he made the decision, I supported the president 100%, and in retrospect, he did the right thing. But the Chinese cannot be happy about this, so I do think that there is some triage here. There is some relationship to what's happening in that region going on in Asia.
Now, Thailand is still holding 18 Cambodian soldiers captive while pretending to honor Trump's peace deal. I mean, why would a U.S. ally openly defy the president of the United States like this? What do they have to gain?
I don't have an answer for that. I cannot tell you what is in their mind, but I'll tell you this. I've known Donald Trump for 50 years. He's not a man to be trifled with. He's not a man to be tested. He means what he says, and he says what he means. And if you give the president your word and you break your word, woe be unto you. This is not Joe Biden. We're not going to be the world's patsy anymore. You have a president who commands respect and perhaps fear among our adversaries, but respect among our allies around the world. They're messing with a very tough guy. Now, Gary, I worked for Richard Nixon. He was a tough guy. I was an assistant to Senator Bob Dole. He was also a very tough guy. But neither one of them is nearly as tough as Donald Trump. He's precisely the guy I want as the steward of our tax dollars, and he is the guy I want standing up for American interests around the world.
Now, I want to get your take on what's happening with respect to Chicago and President Trump seeing great success by rolling out the National Guard in Washington, D.C. It's now triggering Brandon Johnson. He's going out there with J.B. Pritzker. They're taking questions from the press. Do you think that President Trump's really going to bring the National Guard into Washington, D.C., into Chicago, or is this just a major troll to trigger people like Pritzker and Brandon Johnson?
I think the president cares about the lives of American citizens. I think he cares about the lives and the safety of the people of Chicago. While the elites in D.C. Are accusing him of some kind of power grab, or because they're calling him a fascist, that's not what the average citizens in D.C. are saying. The average citizens in D.C. are happy that they can walk to the post office and backs without fear of being hit in the head or robbed or raped or murdered or worse. So there's no question that there's been a deterioration of the situation in the city of Chicago. The president and the president alone has the authority to declare it an emergency. If he declares it an emergency, that would give him the authority to mobilize the National Guard. Unlike D.C., where he can federalize the D.C. police because of the unique nature of the District of Columbia, he cannot federalize the Chicago police. But Gary, the Chicago Police Department is down 1,600 officers because no one wants to go to work for the police because they know the politicians will not have their back. 223 911 calls last year went completely unanswered. Think about that. Someone's breaking into your home. Someone's attacking you with a knife. Someone's trying to steal your car. Or worse, you call the police and no one answers. Brandon Johnson, in all honesty, if this guy's IQ was 1 point lower, you'd have to water him like a plant. Recently, I saw him say, I'm not making this up, I swear to God, the rising crime problem in Chicago is all the fault of Richard Nixon, an American president who's been dead for over 30 years. It's all his fault. I don't know what's wrong with this guy. I do know that he's not up to the job of mayor, and then being propped up by J.B. Pritzker, a man who's so fat when he graduated from high school, he appeared on page 41, 42, and 43 of his high school yearbook. Last time he was in New York, he went to the subway. When he went through the turnstile, he had to go through 3 times.
Okay. Now, I saw the tweet and I laughed my ass off when I read that, and I thank you for bringing that up. You mentioned how Chicago, they're down how many police officers? 1,600. Okay, so in this video right here, we did some commentary on it yesterday, and Brandon Johnson is asked point blank 4 times by Joe Scarborough, would you like to see 4,000, 5,000 new police on the streets if the federal government could help you? And he never answered the question. I mean, I'm watching, this is MSNBC, and Scarborough is grilling him, and you have Brandon Johnson, his eyes are darting around, he's looking for the exit. I mean, it seems like common sense, if you're down that many police officers, that you would accept the help. Are they not accepting the help because it would prove that they're failures?
I think they're not accepting the help because they believe in the platform of the Democrat Socialists of America, as does the Ayatollah Zoran Mamdani, the Democrat candidate for mayor of New York City. First of all, cashless bail is a terrible idea. It has failed in New York. Therefore, J.B. Pritzker immediately adopted it in the state of Illinois and in the city of Chicago. 90% of those being let go with the promise that they will return without paying any cash bond are not returning for their trials. They get a postcard in the mail, although most of them don't have an address for where mail can actually be delivered. This is a joke. I watched that interview when he was asked, would you like to have 5,000 more cops on the street? Yeah. He said, no, the answer to our crime problem is more affordable housing. There's just no evidence that is the case. So when Donald Trump wants to bring order, which is, let's face it, the first responsibility of the President of the United States is to maintain order, they say that it's tyranny, that it's fascism. No, what it is common sense. And I think the people of Chicago, rather than rising up to object to the president's move, I think they would embrace it.
Well, we're seeing that. We're seeing that on the ground. People are calling out for President Trump's help from Chicago. Now, you mentioned that President Trump does have emergency powers to bring in the National Guard. What triggers that? What level does it have to get to? Apparently, it may already be there if President Trump's sitting in the Oval Office talking about this to the press. Where are we at?
Look, I'm not an attorney, but I think the president has to make a decision based on the fact that you have, I think it is estimated to be over 11,000 active gang members, and you have less than 1,000 active police officers at this point. My statistics could be slightly off, but I think I'm pretty close. The crime statistics in New York, in Chicago, they're manipulated so that they don't call the crimes what they really are. They downgrade the crimes so that in the FBI index, it makes it look like the cities are safer than they are. The president has the discretion to decide whether what's happening in Chicago is an emergency or not. And Gary, you know this because you live there. The crime problem is not just in the city. The crime problem is now spread to the suburbs, where it was previously fairly safe and fairly stable. So this is a national emergency. This is a local emergency. I think the president is within his bounds. Sure, J.B. Pritzker and the mayor would go to court, where I think they would lose. The American people voted for law and order in the last election. They voted against this crime spree, and Donald Trump is taking action.
Roger, it's your birthday, and I thank you for joining us. And having survived deep state persecution, what is your message to Americans who are fighting for constitutional government?
First of all, first and foremost, pray to God to preserve this nation. I prayed to God to preserve my life and to protect my family, and I was redeemed in the blood of the cross. Now,
Amen.
The Washington Monthly made fun of me for that. They said, oh, that's an act, that's some kind of a head fake or some kind of an appeal for sympathy. No, Jesus Christ can do anything. I am living proof of that. They put me through a Soviet-style show trial. Gary, it was really about pressuring me to testify falsely against President Donald Trump. They found no Russian collusion because none existed. They wanted to invent it. They wanted me to testify to things that just simply weren't true, that didn't happen, and I refused. It is only because of my faith and through the grace of God that I survived. And this nation will survive if the American people will remember to pray for our president and his family and our government and our country.
Roger, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless your wife. Looking forward to having you back in Chicago sometime soon. And I just want to wish you a very happy birthday today. I know you have a very busy schedule and you decided to join us on the Next News Network. So I'm honored that you chose us for your birthday. And make sure everybody in the comments wishes you a happy birthday. We look forward to having you back again.
Gary, folks can go to stonezone.com. Keep up with everything I'm doing. Thanks so much for having me, and God bless you.
God bless you, too. So a happy 73rd birthday to Roger Stone, the man they couldn't silence, couldn't imprison, and couldn't break. Today, he's given us the greatest gift, exposing the constitutional crisis Trump has brilliantly engineered against the Federal Reserve and revealing Thailand's betrayal of American interests. Either Trump can fire Lisa Cook or the Fed is unconstitutional. There is no middle ground. Either Thailand honors our agreements or they're China's puppet. Pick a side. These are not just political battles. They are fights for whether America remains a constitutional republic or becomes a banker-run empire with fake allies. Roger Stone has spent 45 years, 700 campaigns fighting for American sovereignty. At 73, he is still dropping truth bombs the establishment fears. So you can support Roger by visiting stonezone.com, where you can get his signed books, or you can request even a personal message at cameo.com/Roger Stone. So happy birthday to an American patriot who proves truth remains the most dangerous weapon in politics. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. Now, this is not just another birthday celebration. It's a declaration of war against the banking cartel that's enslaved America since 1913. Roger Stone exposed the binary trap Trump has set. Either we can fire Lisa Cook, proving the president controls the executive branch, or the Fed's independence is revealed as unconstitutional tyranny. There is no escape from this logic. The same people who tried to destroy Stone with fake Russia charges now face their own very legal mortgage fraud evidence. Jerome Powell's $2.5 billion palace renovation, while Americans can't afford groceries, tells you everything about their priorities. Thailand stabbing us in the back while we broker peace proves the deep state operates globally. So here's the question. Should Trump completely abolish the Federal Reserve and return monetary control to Congress, where the Constitution demands it belongs? Drop your answer in the comments. And while you're fired up, check out our Next News merch shop. It's linked down below where you can wear your defiance proudly. All right. An amazing interview with the legendary Roger Stone on his birthday. I am certainly so honored that he chose us for this, for his only interview for the day. That's what he told me. So certainly he didn't have to do it. He could have taken the day off, but he didn't. And he's still fighting for freedom every day. Let's get to see what super chats to speak of here. And super chats. Okay, we got Curio23. We got Denny Donaldson, $1.99. And another one from Denny saying corrupt courts mean no convictions. That's right. We need to make sure that we can get the corruption out of the courts. Now let's check in with our trivia answer. What was it, guys? What did you say? You know, I don't have that screen up, but you guys said what? What did they say, Brian? They said A. All right, so you guys got it right. Well done. Mayor Amschel Rothschild, the banking dynasty founder, allegedly said this in 1790, revealing the Fed's true power. All right, I'm going to make sure I get all of that information up in front of me so I can acknowledge you guys when you do get those poll answers in. Okay, moving right along, we're going to go into our next topic of the evening. Yeah, Soros is on the chopping block now, finally. But first, a historical multiple choice question. What did George Soros allegedly tell the EU to accept in 2015? Was it 1 million migrants yearly, B, his investment advice, C, Bitcoin as currency, or D, free pizza Fridays? I think I know the answer to this one. We'll see if you guys get it right in the poll, comment, or chat. But first, let's get to our next segment, and we'll get to the answer after it. A seismic shift just rocked the deep state's foundation. President Trump and Elon Musk have joined forces to demand RICO charges against George Soros and his son Alex for financing violent protests across America. Reports show that paid protester requests surged 400% since Trump took office, with over $20 million in dark money flooding D.C. agitator groups. Trump declared, "We won't let these lunatics tear America apart anymore," and the evidence is overwhelming. Protesters literally wearing Soros-funded NGO jackets, coordinated break stations, and organized chaos designed to destabilize our republic. Biden gave Soros the Medal of Freedom. Trump wants to give him a perp walk. The battle lines are drawn, so keep on watching. Now, the Soros machine that's funded riots across America is finally facing accountability. And just like those violent protests cause damage to our communities, joint pain damages your quality of life. You're getting older. I'm getting older. It's unavoidable. And until science figures out how to age in reverse, there's something that we all face: joint pain. You've probably tried supplements promising miracles, but most just don't work. There's only one thing that has stood the test of time. It's turmeric. And here's what you probably don't know. Standard turmeric barely gets absorbed by your body. Dr. Josh Levitt developed Golden Revive Plus using BCM95 curcumin, which absorbs 200 times better than regular turmeric, combined with boswellia and magnesium and bromelain. It's a complete joint restoration system. So visit goldenrevive.com/NNN, link down below, to start moving pain-free again. Now, this just in. President Trump has stated George Soros and his radical left son should be charged with RICO because of their support for violent protests. Listen to this.
Never, Trump said, and I quote, "We're not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore, never giving it so much as a chance to breathe and to be free." Soros and his group of psychopaths have caused great damage to our country. Trump said,
RICO charges coming. Trump calls for Democrat mega donor George Soros to be charged for supporting violent protests. The headlines are all coming in. President Trump calls for criminal investigation into billionaire philanthropist George Soros and his son Alex, alleging they fund violent protests. A Soros spokesperson calls the accusations outrageous and false. Of course they would.
The two should be. President Trump is calling for a criminal investigation into billionaire philanthropist George Soros and his son Alex. The president posting on social media the two should be charged with RICO, racketeering, for their alleged involvement with funding violent protests across the country. A Soros spokesperson is calling the accusations outrageous and false. The Justice Department is not commenting on a potential probe, but Fox is told agency leadership is taking the president's post seriously. President Trump.
The agency is taking the president's post seriously. Here's what President Trump said. George Soros and his wonderful radical left son should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protests and much more all throughout the United States of America. We're not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore, never giving it so much as a chance to breathe and be free. Soros and his group of psychopaths have caused great damage to our country. That includes his crazy West Coast friends. Be careful. We're watching you. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And here's a clip that's attached. Of course, we've seen these time and time again. Remember the great summer of love? Well, police dismantling a UCLA encampment move in to arrest protesters. Remember when they all took over the campuses?
Layer and layer.
Cheap tents. I mean, these are industrial type of tents.
Yeah, you know.
Did you hear what he noticed? He said, these are industrial type tents. Yeah, isn't it strange how all of the hardware that these, grassroots activists carry around with them, they're all same make and model. Yeah, they buy them in bulk. You see, they don't. It's not. It's not like these activists are going to Costco and they're picking these things up. All right, you've got these radical groups funded by Soros organizations, and they're buying them in bulk, and then they're shipping them across the country to all these agitators.
I did stories about, there's so much money behind this. You're just looking at a tip of the iceberg.
That's right.
That kept these protests alive, across the country.
William,
and,
can you
that
go
money
over?
Isn't going away.
Right. Tell us the program. You did a great piece.
He said there's so much money behind these protests to keep them going across the country. See, real grassroots protests, it's like mom and pop on the street corner with hand-painted signs. Okay, they go and do a protest on a Saturday afternoon. because they're still working a 9 to 5, right? The only free time they have is a Saturday or a Sunday. But somehow these protesters can go for days and weeks on end because they're given a constant supply of support.
On all the funding, the Rockefellers, the Ford Foundation, the different groups that funded all this. Could you talk about it?
Yeah, so we started, where's the money coming from for the Students for Justice in Palestine and the committee, the U.S. Committee for Palestine, these kind of things. And what you find is layer and layer upon foundations, shell companies, very difficult to trace because unlike a 501c3 where there is a paper trail to be able to see where the money came from, where it goes, that doesn't exist. There's dark money around here. There's 50, 60, 70 foundations that give money to the Tides Foundation. I don't want to get too deep into this.
That's
but anyways,
Soros.
then they filter out the money. Right, well, there's the Open Society, and Soros gave about $700,000, and I believe the Rockefeller Brothers Fund was $500,000 over the last 3 years to some of these foundations that funnel money out to groups like this. But anyways, go ahead.
But anyways, remember USAID? How much of that USAID money was funneled down to these paid protesters? We have this from Siguenza Eterna on X. The Soros enterprise then brought its destabilization playbook to America during the 2014 Ferguson unrest. OSF, Open Society Foundation, funnels $33 million to a network of civil rights groups, including the key on-the-ground organizers of the protests that devolved into riots. The Organization for Black Struggle, Missourians Organizing for Reform and Empowerment, called MORE. Businesses were looted and burned, and American City was torn apart. This is funding of domestic terror. Right here. You can see it. Trump calling for, finally, an investigation into the Soros organization. Here we have more. Paid protester requests have surged 400% since Trump was inaugurated as president. Reports show dark money groups like those that the Soros family funds have dumped over $20 million into different protest groups in Washington, D.C. Why was this allowed to happen?
Organizing demonstrators feel the same about federal law enforcement. But the fury may not be fully organic. Fox News has learned that paid protester requests have increased 400% since President Trump announced the federal takeover of D.C.'s police department. The New York Post reports that high-dollar donors like George Soros have pumped more than $20 million into protest groups currently organizing demonstrations in the district.
Why are you here? You're trying to arrest innocent people?
According to the White House, 45 arrests were made last night for reasons including assault, drug distribution, and illegal firearms. 29 illegal immigrants were also apprehended. The district's police chief, Pamela Smith, announcing today that local police will begin sharing information on undocumented individuals with immigration agents.
Washington, D.C. is at its worst point, and it will soon.
Feel the same.
Now think about this. It's one thing to have a peaceful protest. I'm all for it. I have myself been in the streets with passing out DVDs and shouting on a blowhorn. Okay? Because that is my core. I want justice for America. Because I see what's going on and I see that it needs to be revealed. But I don't go around, or when I was actually in the streets, I didn't go around smashing windows and destroying property and attacking police officers. So while they can say, I'm sure this is going to be their defense, oh, we're just supporting these nonprofit groups who do peaceful protests. But they never talk about the subgroups, the agitators who are embedded within these groups that also receive the money. So by default, they're also funding the terrorism that breaks out in these so-called peaceful protests, right? That's how it works. We've seen it time and time again. Trump and Elon Musk both are asserting that Soros should be charged with RICO crimes for financing violent protests in America. George Soros set up a foundation in Ukraine designed to usurp the government and employ a color revolution where paid violent protesters work to destabilize a region and demand regime change. This is the playbook they use continually. If you do not prosecute the head of the snake, they will continue to implement these tactics ad nauseum until it stops working or they are shut down for good. Many of the world's issues can be traced back to George Soros and his dark money, including the Russia-Ukraine war. Check this out.
George Soros, pleasure to have you on.
Same here.
First on Ukraine, one of the things that many people recognized about you was that you, during the revolutions of 1989, funded a lot of dissident activity, civil society groups in Eastern Europe, in Poland, the Czech Republic. Are you doing similar things in Ukraine?
Well, I set up a foundation in Ukraine before Ukraine became independent of Russia. And the foundation has been functioning ever since. And it played an important part in events now.
Do you think Ukraine will be able to assert a kind of independence from Russia and an alignment with the West, not a specific alignment as in NATO, but a kind of orientation toward the West, or will the Russians always stop them?
No, Putin will try to destabilize Ukraine. The foundation has been functioning ever since, and it played an important part in events now.
George Soros, pleasure to have you on.
That's Soros' own words, admitting that he funds the destabilization of different regions and mentioning Ukraine specifically right there. God J.B. Pricker, one of my favorite follows on X, Pritzker equals Soros. Now, it's a parody account, often trying to speak in the voice of J.B. Pritzker in a satirical way. I take great offense to Donald Trump attacking another great family, my beloved Soros family. The Pritzker and Soros families have the same goals. Just note we are more wealthy. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Of course, a satirical post. But here you can see Pritzker with Soros's son and more with Soros's son there. Trump says that George Soros and his son should be hit with RICO charges for supporting violent protests. What happens if Soros-funded operations get violent and engage in domestic terrorism? What happens if mayors, police chiefs don't enforce the law? That's exactly what I just said. All right? You have subgroups within these groups that Soros is funding. The hammer is being prepped to drop hard. Elon Musk says he stands with President Trump in calling for the arrest of George Soros. Benny Johnson, President Trump, calling for the George Soros and radical left son Alex to be hit with RICO charges. So everybody's talking about this right now. Here is the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban exposing George Soros' 2015 plan to deliberately flood the EU with at least 1 million asylum seekers annually. President Trump is now officially taking action against George Soros for funding violent riots in the United States. Orban was right. Listen to this.
I do remember how Mr. George Soros published his plan in English in a Project Syndicate publication. It was done 2015, September 26. And he published a plan. He said that he is I'm quoting, he write the 6 components of my comprehensive plan. I just quote 2 or 3 points of that. First is, he said very clearly, 2015, that, quoting again, EU has to accept at least 1 million asylum seekers annually. That was the first point. Second, he said, adequate financing is critical. And he proposed to issue long-term euro bonds for financing the migration crisis and the migrants' social and welfare taking care when they arrive to the European Union. And another point which is very important for Hungary, which is involving the territory of Hungary directly into this program, he said that, quoting them, safe channels must be established for asylum seekers, starting with getting them from Greece and Italy to their destination countries, which means to bring them to Greece, to Hungary, and then have them to go to Austria. So don't forget that what we are speaking about is not an accidental stories, not a bulk of 10 years of accidental stories. It's a plan which is going on. It was written. It was published. It's known. So we are fighting again an organized gang called Empire of George Soros, NGOs, who are just supporting everybody who is transgressing our legal system and our regulation. and financing illegal activity against our nation. So this is why the story is not just about migration, but it's about how this European Union is working and how George Soros was able to captive the main positions inside many institutions of European Union, buying out MPs and other leaders, and in order to execute the plan which is written, and it's against all the Christian and nation-based political forces. It's against us. It's about how to change Europe and how to eliminate and push aside all the Christian, conservative, national-based political leaders and voters from the European Union decision-making bodies. So this is the migration about, not just about migration. I do remember how Mr.
And you can see that happen here in the United States. Remember, we had for 4 years a wide open border. Sounds like that playbook was easily applied here. Continuing with our investigation into this, here we have more RVG Truth. Wall Street Apes writes, Trump officially calls for Soros and Alexander Soros to be charged with racketeering for funding street protesters in America. Flashback, Los Angeles ICE protesters literally filmed wearing the jackets of an NGO funded by George Soros. They also had break stations set up by another NGO also funded by George Soros. Let's take a look at this.
It's okay. Sir, would you like to say anything on camera? Would you like to do a little quick interview? Huh?
I know who you are. You're Taylor Kramer. Right?
Yes, I am.
A lot of what you say are lies.
Okay, well, you like to talk about stop touching me. Yeah, she's hitting me, so that's not very respectful. I'm just right here. I'm allowed to be here. I'm just trying to. Would you like to do an interview?
No.
Huh? Why not? I don't want to. It's okay.
It's
okay, man.
It's full of shit.
We're just full of shit, huh?
Yeah.
What is that? The evidence, the receipts, the sidewalk school. The sidewalk school.
And so I founded the Asylum Seeker Network of Support as an effort to fight policy, U.S. policy. Then that sort of evolved to providing or creating programs.
Also among us, people who are not very friendly. So the gentleman right here, so because he's here to what he can get from us. But we are here standing as a community as one.
Okay,
why are you taking pictures of children?
Because they have trans flags, and they were just at a table with a bunch of condoms and stuff for sex, which is inappropriate. It is, right? It's not inappropriate for, what, like a 6-year-old? Huh? It's a public park. Hey, stop touching me, dude. Stop stepping on me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Huh?
I didn't mean to, sorry.
No, you did. So stop it. Stop touching me.
In our space.
Huh?
This is our space. You're not welcome in this space.
It's a public park. Okay, so now you're assaulting me too. Pushing me.
Oh, my bad.
Why'd you hit me?
I didn't.
Yes, you did. You just kicked me.
I was an accident, bro.
So why your parents would allow you to be violent like that? I don't think that's right.
I wasn't violent. What are you on about, bro? Get out of business. How about you give us some personal space and nobody will touch you?
Okay, personal space, and you guys keep backing into me.
What are you doing in a place?
You're not going to gaslight me like that. It's just not going to work, dude.
Creating a safe space.
That's crazy. Whoa, 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 whoa! You got me. You just got it on camera, huh? Call the police, man. This is bullshit.
To remind you that we practice nonviolence, so please do not engage.
So why were they throwing coffee at me? I'm just here to, ma'am, you know, I'm just here to cover the event. I'm not doing anything to anybody.
McAllen, Texas. Another example of Soros agitators harassing someone there who's peacefully just documenting what they're doing. See, they don't like it when the cameras are facing on them. And remember this, Joe Biden giving Soros the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Now President is going to hit Soros with RICO. What a difference one election can make.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to George Soros. Born into a Jewish family in Hungary, George Soros escaped Nazi occupation to build a life of freedom for himself and countless others around the world. Educated in England, he settled in America as he became an investor and philanthropist, supporting key pillars of open societies, rights and justice, equity and equality, freedom now and in the future. His inspiring generosity reminds us all of our capacity and our obligation to stand up to the abuse of power and to be guardians of democracy and all people yearning to be free.
And you can see there's his son, Alex, there accepting it on his behalf because, you know, he's probably just not able. That guy is old, not even able to go to the White House to accept this award. Now, President Trump is demanding the public arrest of George Soros and his son, accusing them of RICO, branding them and him and his family psychopathic, vowed he will never let them tear America apart. So this is only the beginning, folks. One more domino set to fall. George Soros, someone who's done so much damage to this country, finally about to face justice. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So the gloves are off. For decades, Soros operated with impunity, flooding our streets with paid agitators while hiding behind nonprofit shields. Now Trump and Musk are exposing the whole racket: protesters in Soros-branded gear, coordinated supply stations, dark money trails leading straight back to his organizations. This is not free speech, it's organized crime. RICO laws were designed exactly for this, taking down criminal enterprises that operate through seemingly legitimate fronts. Viktor Orban warned us about Soros' plan to flood the West with migrants. Ukraine showed us his color revolution playbook. And now that same destabilization strategy is deployed here at home. The establishment media will scream about attacking a philanthropist, but Americans see through the charade. So here's the question. Should Soros organizations be completely banned from operating in America like they are in other countries? Let us know in the comments. And you can show your support for a real organization, Next News Network. Grab your gear at a link down below. Okay, now what did you guys say? 1 million migrants yearly. But first we have Irving. What's up, Irving? Dropping a 20 spot as he is stopping by. Thank you so much, Irving, for supporting the show. One of our biggest supporters here. Love you, man. Thank you. So it was the answer. You guys said it was 1 million migrants yearly. You got it correct. Orban exposed the plan in 2015, warning it would destabilize Europe, and he was right. Have you seen London lately? Let's move into our next topic. Which D.C. landmark was originally a swamp before becoming a transit hub? Was it A, the Union Station's location, B, the Pentagon parking lot, C, Capitol Hill basement, or D, Biden's memory palace? All right. You guys can weigh in the comments or in the chat or in the poll, because we're going to find out what's going on in Washington, D.C. All right. President Trump has pulled off what Democrats are calling a power grab, but residents call it a miracle. Union Station, the gateway to our nation's capital, has now been ripped from Amtrak's failed control and placed under federal authority. Secretary Duffy announced a takeover hours ago, vowing to transform the crime-ridden transit hub into a station worthy of America. The homeless encampments, the plagued commuters for years, well, cleared in a week. The filth and danger that Democrats ignored, gone. While leftist activists scrambled to paint this as authoritarianism, D.C. residents are celebrating in the streets. One lifelong local summed it up: thumbs up, Trump, go get him. The transformation's already shocking the nation, so keep on washing. Now, Union Station's transformation proves Trump delivers results while others just talk. Like Chuck Norris, who transformed his health at 84, Trump is transforming D.C. Speaking of Chuck Norris, have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary martial artist? I recently saw a video he made, and I was shocked. He's in his 80s, still kicking butt and staying active. What's even more shocking, he's stronger, he can work out longer, even has plenty of energy left over for his kids and grandkids. He did this by making one change. See, he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. Chuck made a special video that explains everything at chuckdefense.com/next. You'll find it linked in the description below. Now, this just in, making the waves all across the United States and the railways. President Trump officially federalizing Union Station in D.C., fully seizing control. Here is the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy.
Help us. Today we're announcing that we're going to take Union Station back under DOT control. Not a power play, we've always had it, but we think that we can manage the property better, bring in more tenants, bring in more revenue, and that revenue is going to allow us to make investments in this beautiful building. It needs investments. It's been, I think, neglected for decades, and it's showing its age. And again, we want to make this place beautiful and the premier train station, not just in America, but the premier train station in the world. And that takes money. And again, it's this reform that's going to help us make that happen. Today we're
what's wild about this is that President Trump, he's a builder by trade, all right? Builds beautiful buildings. I mean, look what he did to the U.S. Post Office. Turned it into a beautiful hotel. I've stayed there in Washington, D.C., a magnificent property, just a glory to visit. If you're ever in D.C., you need to go there and check out the bar and just the lounge area. Amazing place. But think about this. You have another old building, Union Station. Sean Duffy, the secretary there, already saying, yeah, it's fallen into disrepair. There's no tenants. So now you have a president who is a builder, and he's taking a look at this property going, you know what, let's just federalize it, and let's, apply the Trump building mentality to this. And he's just going to delegate the work. Sean Duffy right there, Secretary of Transportation, saying, we're going to make this building beautiful again. We're going to bring tenants back, revenue back. That's just one thing President Trump is doing to make this country better, because it is the doorway to Washington. It is the gateway to our nation's capital. And what's the first thing you want visitors to see if they're traveling by train and they arrive in our nation's capital? You want them to see a thing of beauty, something we can be proud of, something that you can be proud of. This is our nation's capital we're talking about. Secretary Burgum on the deputization of the CBP officers to assist U.S. Park Police. What we want to do is make sure that those working alongside, well, let's listen to his remarks. He's on CNN with Caitlin Collins here outside the White House.
You actually recently moved to deputize Customs and Border Protection officers recently to be able to patrol national park sites in Washington. Why was that necessary?
Well, part of it is just a collaboration we have between all agencies, but deputizing them to be part of the United States Park Police, which is a venerable, honorable organization that's the oldest uniformed law enforcement agency in the country's history. U.S. Park Police was created by George Washington in 1791, specifically to focus on taking care of federal property within the District of Columbia. Part of it, of course, today, it's dangerous work in law enforcement, but if you're working outside your jurisdiction, then it creates additional liability. So part of what we wanted to do is to make sure that those people who are working side by side, other federal agencies, including Customs and Border Patrol, that are working alongside of the U.S. Park Police, which have broad authorities here in D.C. to make sure that they've got the same liability protection if they're doing an arrest in the city.
You actually recently moved to deputize Customs and Border Protection officers.
That is what we need. We need more people on the streets who are taking control back. Donald Trump assuming full federal control of D.C.'s Union Station has taken over Amtrak. Here is more. Here is the Transportation Secretary on a train in Union Station.
To, I think, bring in.
And, what can people expect the changes to be?
So first off, DOT owns Union Station, and we've had a lot of partners that we've subleased to or we've leased to. We're going to take it back, and we're going to drive out the homelessness. We're going to drive out the crime, and we are going to, I think, bring in more retailers. I think more customers. It'll be better revenue. And again, this is our capital city. It should be beautiful. Yeah. And the president wants a beautiful capital. I want a beautiful capital. And so this plan is going to make Union Station represent the president's vision of what America can and should look like.
Well, Secretary
Beautiful moment there. Here's more. Let's see. Then we got this one. We're taking back management. Take back control. Investment. Make sure the city isn't dirty.
DOT Union Station is frankly owned by DOT. We are going to take DOT from our partners back under DOT control, and we are going to make the investments to make sure that this station isn't dirty, that we don't have homelessness in Union Station. We want a place where businesses want to obtain leases and set up shop and serve the community of DC, but also the people that travel into DC via train. But also, we want if you're out, you want to go for a great meal, you want to go shopping, you want to come to Union Station because it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's safe, it's a great experience. That's what we want to do for Union Station. So Union Station.
Let's see what we have here. Democrats tell you D.C. is now like Nazi Germany in the 30s with soldiers on the streets. But if you talk to actual D.C. residents, they tell you they love the cleanup and they feel safe for the first time in many years. Let's listen to this young man.
And they will tell you, I thought D.C. was going to look like Germany in the 1930s. Isn't that what you guys said? Isn't that what you predicted? But it's funny. If you walk through D.C. now, peaceful, clean, safer. Speak to the residents of D.C. and they will tell you a totally different story. They will tell you that they appreciate what Trump has done and what the Metropolitan Police Department working with the federal government has done, and that they can now take their family out in the daytime. They can now come out to their cars not being broken into. Just overall a better way of life. Why every time Trump tries to do something, the left always try to fearmonger and exaggerate on what he's going to do? I mean, we're still waiting on the change that we were supposed to get when he took office in 2016 and in 2025. So I guess we'll still be waiting for those chains, according to the left. But I just don't get it. It costs you guys less to work with the man. Let him cook. See what he's going to do. I mean, because he's been doing a damn good job since he took office. Wouldn't you say?
Let him cook. Let him cook. And that's what President Trump is doing, making America and the Capitol great again. Here's a D.C. resident talking about the homeless encampments near Union Station.
Video after video. So President Trump has not even had control over Washington, D.C. for 30 days. And I have on my For You page video after video showing D.C., specifically Union Station, and how clean and safe it is. People don't understand how big of a deal it is, specifically for Union Station, because there is a bridge, whether it's the bypass, it's either 95, 395, or 495, where the homeless, as well as people who are abusing drugs, as well as the drug dealers, they just squat. It's clean. It's all gone. This was also an underpass bridge where people would throw their wastes. So you would drive on the main road, and to the left and right of you is nothing but trash. It's all clean. People don't understand how big of a deal this is, because the Capitol is right there within like a 6 or 7 minute walk. And then also local residents, they did not like walking there, whether in the daytime or the evening. Some people would take taxis just to avoid any type of encounters. And people have been talking about cleaning this up for a decade. And you mean to tell me President Trump hasn't even had control for 30 days and he cleaned it all up? So President Trump has not even had
in less than 30 days, cleaning up the whole frickin' place. Here is J.R. Majewski, friend of mine, exposing leftist activist Russell Ellis, a.k.a. Jolly Good Ginger, and his crew for lying to millions of followers. They write here that Elias used a handful of other left-wing veterans as a backdrop, announced they had set up 24/7 operations in front of Union Station to protest Trump's takeover. He also told his base they had launched a fundraiser to support their stunt. Majewski, who's also a veteran, drove to Union Station last night to meet the protesters, only to find that not a single one was there. Ellis and the other grifters, who aren't even from D.C., are protesting the fact that Trump has curbed crime. In over 11 days, not a single person has died from gun violence. They're exploiting the situation for financial gain while churning out content for social media. Once again, leftists show their stunts are all about clout and spreading hate for Trump, not real change. Let's check in with JR.
We're at Union Station. This is the veteran sit-in. We have decided as a group of veterans to come here and not leave until the National Guard leaves. This is a military occupation of our streets.
There's no fucking veteran lock-in, dude. Jolly Good Ginger is nowhere to be seen. He's been lying to everybody. He's not there. So go to his little GoFundMe and give him money so he can buy fruit snacks and pizza rolls. But he's not at Union Station. I was going to stop in and say hi. And look, he'll probably be like, you should have came during the day. That's when we're here. I got a job, motherfucker. I got a job. J-O-B. Got a job. Jobby job. Know what that is? Liberace? Probably not. I haven't had a job. I'm a veteran. Get my retirement benefits. That's probably what it is. So, either way. The liberals, they're probably paying him money because he's their hero.
We're at Union Station. This is the veteran sit-in. We
JR, man, on the street. I love that guy. Oh, man. President Trump has taken full control of Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, citing safety concerns, moving it from Amtrak's hands, expanding its authority over the Capitol to restore order. Trump is going all in. Here we have another D.C. resident, born and raised, describes the joy she feels at Union Station and the kindness she's been shown by the military. Yeah, this is Trump's martial law. This is Trump's dictatorship.
So right now I'm down here in Union Station, as you can see behind me. Yes. And I walked through Union Station. It was different. See, I'm from DC. I live here. So I can tell you, I can be honest, it's cleaner looking, it's nicer looking. You still have some people asking for money, but they're like only 2 or 3, and they're like right by the escalators. They're not inside. They're not people like zombies on the inside. I was able to take an actual walk around the circle without smelling weird stuff. It's nice. I mean, I spoke to some of the military people. They were so nice. I said, I'm glad you're here. They were like, thank you. I even spoke to the U.S. Marshals up in Maryland. They were sweet too. They had no attitude, even though they were busy. Like, he was busy, and he still spoke to me so nicely. So, like, literally, thumbs up, Trump. Get him.
Thumbs up, Trump. Go and get him. If you got value from this report tab, subscribe. My final thought is next. So this is really bigger than Union Station. It's about reclaiming American sovereignty one landmark at a time. Democrats scream fascism while residents celebrate safety returning to their streets. The contrast exposes their lie. Trump isn't seizing power. He's returning it to the people who actually live with the consequences of failed policies. For years, Union Station symbolized D.C.'s decay, homeless camps, crime, and filth that politicians stepped over while lecturing us about compassion. In just a week, Trump accomplished what they claim was impossible. The underpasses are clear, commuters feel safe, and the message unmistakable. When Trump acts, results follow. While Amtrak let our capital's gateway rot, Trump's team is already planning renovations to restore its glory. So here's the question. Should Trump federalize every major transit hub in Democrat-run cities that refuse to maintain order? Drop your answer below. And you can support real journalism. Check out our Next News merch shop. It's linked in the description, where you can trigger a liberal today. All right. You guys said no super chats at this moment, $25.97 in the jar. Okay, you guys said it was, yes, Union Station's location, and you were correct. Union Station's location built on former swampland in 1907. Now Trump is draining a different kind of swamp, right? Okay, moving into our next topic of the evening. Oh, speaking of D.C., we do have to go over to Chicago because that is on everybody's lips. And we got a beautiful lineup here. We're going to play some evidence for you. But first, a trivia question. What did Chicago's mayor refuse to accept on live TV 5 times? Was it A, 5,000 more police officers, B, Trump's election results, C, basic math skills, or D, reality itself? You guys can weigh in the chat, the comment, or the poll, and we'll get you the answer after this segment. Chicago is bleeding out while its leaders play politics with people's lives. The city is down 1,600 police officers. 223 emergency calls went completely unanswered last year. Think about that. You call for help and nobody comes. Murders, carjackings, and chaos rule the streets while Mayor Brandon Johnson pushes delusional theories that housing, not cops, will stop the violence. Meanwhile, actual Chicago residents are begging for President Trump's help. They're all calling for the National Guard. They want what D.C. just got, federal intervention that actually works. The disconnect between Chicago's woke leadership and desperate citizens has never been more stark. So keep on watching. Now, Chicago's collapse proves what happens when leaders abandon law and order. Just like the city needs real solutions, your body needs real relief from joint pain. You're getting older, I'm getting older, it's unavoidable. Until science figures out how we age in reverse, there's something we all face. It's called joint pain. You've probably tried supplements promising miracles, but most don't work. There's one thing that has stood the test of time. I'm talking about turmeric. But standard turmeric barely gets absorbed by your body, and Dr. Josh Levitt developed Golden Revive Plus using BCM 95 curcumin, which absorbs 200 times better combined with boswellia, magnesium, and bromelain. It's a complete joint restoration system. Visit goldenrevive.com/NNN to learn more and to start moving pain-free again, like hopefully the citizens of Chicago will. Now, we played this yesterday. Morning Joe asking Brandon Johnson if 5,000 more cops would help with the violence in Chicago. Johnson wouldn't agree. He says we need more affordable housing. Megyn Kelly even bringing it up on her show.
The Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson, who's ridiculous, a ridiculous person whose approval rating, you have more toes than he has approval ratings.
Don't know that.
And numbers in his approval rating. And here, watch this. Look at this.
Would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want. Would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs?
Here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know police officers
would be safer. Look,
okay,
I'm not saying that.
We were going to see Megyn Kelly would react to that, but no, we played that yesterday for you. An embarrassment. Brandon Johnson is a total embarrassment to Chicago. Chicago flips red, posting 5 hours ago. Chicago's fed up. Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor J.B. Pritzker keep blocking every real solution while our neighborhoods bleed. They'd rather play politics than protect the people. Chicago flips red. Danielle Carter Walters rips them apart and backs President Trump's call to send in the National Guard because Chicagoans deserve safety and not excuses. Let's listen to this.
Point. Now for more, Chicago resident Danielle Carter-Walters. Danielle, what do you think? I mean, you see what the president's doing in Washington, D.C. Would you like that to come to Chicago? And why would anybody be opposed to cleaning up the city?
Yes, we're tired of seeing our kids and our family members dying in the streets. We're tired of going to funerals and looking over our family members' coffins. At what point are we going to say enough is enough? Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker, they have no solutions. Well, let me be clear. Yes, they do. The solution is policies that are soft on crime, like the Safety Act and the no cash bail. We're saying no more. We are welcoming President Trump. We asked him to come here. We advocated. Chicago Flips Red advocated for him to come here. And we finally have a president that's listening to the citizens and the people of America. So Brandon Johnson and Pritzker, they're evil. Anybody who wants to stop someone from coming in to stop the murdering and the killing, anybody who wants to get in the way of that, they're evil. And that's it.
Yeah, I just heard your governor. It was unbelievable. He said, oh, it's about something else. No, it's not. Donald Trump cares about people's lives and about crime. Now for more, Chicago.
Yeah, they'll make as many excuses as they can to deflect from their own failures. Speaking of failures, here is Brandon Johnson at the microphone.
World without, we cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down. We cannot return to the same failed strategies that got us here in the first place. Under the previous presidential administration, we requested more federal resources to address gun violence in our city. We continue to make that same call. We have made significant progress on our own, but there is so much more that we can do if we had real support from the federal government.
You know, as I'm watching this, I'm reminded of Zoolander. If you haven't seen the film, there's a school. It's called the Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good and want to learn to do other stuff good too. That's the first thing that came on my mind when I saw Brandon Johnson. Definitely a graduate of the Zoolander School. Let's see. Here's a black conservative eviscerating the woke Mayor Brandon Johnson and woke Governor Pritzker.
But not in the South, of course. Now you have Chicago politicians bragging, talking about, no, the crime is down. The crime is down. Maybe by fucking Whole Foods where you shop, but not in the South side of Chicago, where people are still ducking and dodging bullets and can't even check their goddamn mail. This is what I was saying 2 weeks ago when I said these democratic cities invest in crime. And every liberal in my comment section was like, you said the wrong word. You said the method. You said the method. You said the method. It's not a method. They're investing in crime. There's no progress. They want the crime to fucking continue. That's obvious. Talking about you're investing positively in the communities. You're investing in fucking excuses. You have communities like West Side where there's people who are purposely going out asking for help. Asking for help. Trump said the other day, there's a beautiful African-American woman coming to me, asking me like, hey, can you please come help us in Chicago? We need help. Crime is at an all-time high. Please help us. Governor's like, oh, no, we're okay. The mayor's like, don't send help. How dare you? We don't need no help. Let the crime continue. Let the crime continue. The gaslighting is at an all-time high. You are willing to put your community at risk because you hate Trump that fucking bad. No, what's going to happen is he's going to call out your fucking mismanagement. He's going to call out your fucking bullshit. He's going to call out your corruption. That's what he's doing. These democratic cities think this is some type of game. Every time a criminal is in jail, they're like, oh, you're fucking racist. Every time the National Guard comes in to fucking sweep their shit up, oh, that's illegal. Yet and still, you got the community out here, please help us. We need help. We want to live. We're tired of dodging fucking bullets. Trying to bamboozle the public. We know the truth. The communities are speaking for themselves. We couldn't care less what's on the goddamn paper. You democratic cities are trash, and you continuously invest in fucking crime.
Oh, yeah, baby. Damn, I want to meet her. She knows her stuff. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson doesn't want Chicago to have more police officers. He opposes having lower crime for his city. My latest Fox News appearance on Ingram Angle. This is Stacy Washington.
Suffer from, I know you're based near St. Louis, which also has had its own crime problems over the years. You were just in D.C. Help us understand what is racist about helping people across urban America, and mostly who suffer from high crime are minorities. How is that racist?
You know, I couldn't see the racism when I was in the Uber speeding into D.C. for Media Row for the radio program. And Laura, I saw National Guardsmen just standing around kind of nonchalantly leaning up against our beautiful buildings in D.C., talking to Black Americans in the city, just yucking it up and having a good time talking while they were keeping the city safe. The city looks scrubbed. It looks like someone went through, like an interior designer, and cleaned everything up and put everybody in cute clothes. People are walking, they're bike riding, they're on their scooters. They look fantastic. I saw people smiling, Laura. I go to DC 15 to 20 times a year during, Republican administrations. And so I see it a lot. And I've always felt like I really need to be situationally aware, because the city does have a lot of crime. I had no idea there was like a murder every day. President Trump teaches us something new all the time. But Laura, the city looks reborn. It's a glittering example of a capital city, of a national, international power. And that's what it's supposed to look like. And that's what we Republicans are into, looking good, winning, making stuff happen. President Trump has totally remodeled the city in less than 2 weeks. I'm trying to figure out what Brandon Johnson is talking about. Of course he needs 5,000 new officers on the street there. Of course he needs that. And they need a new mayor. He shouldn't be doing that job because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Doesn't know what he's talking about at all. Let's take a look here. Brandon Johnson says that him resisting Trump deploying National Guard is like when slaves fought for freedom against the Confederacy. Are you freaking kidding me?
Could you imagine all of this pushback against Trump, knowing how he responds to that, could actually provoke him to follow through with this talk about sending in the National Guard when yesterday he seemed to waffle? Could this make things worse, all this pushback?
Could you imagine if, as a descendant of slaves, if my...
Okay, first of all, did you see his eyes darting back and forth again when that question came up? Now, I'll just roll it back a hair, but you can just watch again, pay close attention. He's freaking out inside, realizing that President Trump is coming. This is a direct question about Trump on the way. And he's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? His mind is freaking out.
Follow through with this talk about sending in the National Guard when yesterday he seemed to waffle. Could this make things worse, all this pushback?
Could you imagine if, as a descendant of slaves, if my ancestors would have had that same rationale? Let's not fight against the Confederacy. Let's just try to get along, and then maybe one day they'll give us our freedom. Nowhere in the history of America or the world where marginalized people have sat silent and idle, and they've been able to actually achieve justice and liberation. The fact that you have a unified front in Chicago, where we are rejecting the occupation by the military of our cities. That's actually fighting for our democracy. That's what's required in this moment. Leading in this moment takes a great deal of courage, but we stand on the shoulders of so many people that have come before us. We have seen these type of tyrannical acts before. One thing that we know for sure, when we fight back against tyranny, the people united always prevail.
All of this.
Well, if you watched my interview with Roger Stone, I asked him directly about President Trump's intervention. And during the interview, Roger Stone was very clear. He says that it has risen to the point of emergency where President Trump can enact an executive order to call in the National Guard to solve the crime problem in Chicago. And that is why Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker are standing unified because really they don't want their game exposed. It's really about their pride. It's not about protecting the people. Here is Scott Jennings on CNN. What's he talking about?
And it's also because the military serves a role to protect Americans, not to be used against Americans.
You keep saying used against Americans. What kind of Americans do you mean? The ones that are murdering us, carjacking us, raping us, terrorizing our cities? I mean, you're saying like he's creating an actual war against American citizens when what he's actually creating is a war against criminals. And by the way, illegal aliens who they are rounding up by the bucket load in Washington.
I want to let Ellie...
Of course politics is going on here. I mean, you said that they should be asking for federal resources, but that would be an admission that they have lost control of their cities.
That's
so
not losing control. I mean, the way mayor of D.C. asked for federal resources too. She was trying to.
But Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, said, "I don't want more police," and he even said today, "We don't even want to put people in prison."
But this is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that Democrats should think about potentially asking for more resources. What I'll say here is that. I agree with you,
but they won't.
But it's also not handing over the entire city to the federal government. What happens is that the mayor and the local law enforcement should be in charge, and they should have the federal law enforcement supplement and provide training as needed. It shouldn't be that the National Guard and federal law enforcement should take over a city that they do not understand, that they do not know, that the community doesn't understand. That just leads to chaos.
I mean, when you heard, and it's also because the military.
Oh, man, this is beautiful. Let's check in with Gino Caldwell, talking about families in Illinois.
It seems, I got to tell you, Dana, this is one of the most difficult conversations I think anybody can have, to put themselves on television and talk about the loss of their family members, especially when it seems to arrive on deaf ears when it comes to J.B. Pritzker, the governor, and Mayor Brandon Johnson. They don't have a problem with Donald Trump. They have a problem with the truth. The truth is there are many families throughout the state of Illinois and in Chicago that are hurting, people who are dying, families that are being slaughtered, their blood and treasure that is being laid out in the streets bare. We must make a change, and that's why I am hopeful and prayerful that with this new potential order from President Donald Trump that we will see change. The people of Chicago don't care about personalities. They don't care about parties. They want to see solutions, and that's why I encourage President Trump to stay on this wave and continue to talk about Chicago, continue to talk about offering federal support, which could be the National Guard, the ATF, the DEA, and the FBI. Things need to change, and they need to change now. I got to tell you, Dana.
Oh, and things are about to change. And I'm looking it up right now. I'm trying to find the exact law or statute. And let's hear what ChatGPT has to say.
Got it. Here's a straightforward narrative version you can use. The Constitution doesn't literally say National Guard, but it lays out the framework that makes it possible. Article 2, Section 2 makes the President the Commander-in-Chief, not just of the Army and Navy, but also of the state militias once they're called into federal service. Then, in Article 1, Section 8, Congress is given the power to provide for calling forth the militia to enforce the laws, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Congress turned those constitutional principles into law through the Insurrection Act of 1807. That act allows the president to step in with military forces, including the National Guard, to restore order when laws can't be enforced, when insurrections or riots threaten stability, or when citizens are being denied their constitutional rights and local authorities won't act. In practice, this means the Guard is normally under the control of state governors. But if law and order break down, the president can federalize the Guard and use it directly. That authority has been invoked several times in history, from Eisenhower sending troops to enforce school desegregation in the 1950s to the Guard's deployment during the Los Angeles riots in 1992. So the chain of authority is simple. The Constitution sets the foundation. Congress gave the president the legal mechanism through the Insurrection Act, and the president executes it, often through an executive order when law and order must be restored.
There you go. And law and order needs to be restored in Chicago because the politicians are not protecting and enforcing the law. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So the tale of two cities could not be clearer. In D.C., Trump federalized security and residents rejoice. In Chicago, Johnson clings to failed ideology while citizens die. This is not about politics anymore. It's about survival. When your emergency call goes unanswered, when gang members outnumber cops, when your mayor claims housing will stop bullets, you're living in a failed state. Chicago residents aren't asking for a political debate. They are begging for their lives. They see what Trump accomplished in D.C., and they want the same salvation. But their leaders would rather virtue signal than save lives. Johnson's comparing Trump's offer of help to slavery while his constituents are actually dying is beyond insulting. It's criminal negligence. So here's the question. Should Trump deploy the National Guard to Chicago, even without the mayor's permission, to save American lives? Tell us below. You can support Truth Media by grabbing some Next News gear from our merch shop, link below, where you can trigger Brandon Johnson today. All right. Let's see what you guys said in the comments or the poll. You guys said it was A, and the answer was, in fact, A. Okay, it was 5,000 more police officers. Johnson dodged the question, repeatedly claiming housing, not cops, reduce crime, and Chicago residents disagree. All right, moving into our next topic. Because the federal... I understand. Because the Federal Reserve is on the chopping block. There is a lot to talk about right now. And we're going to get into this amazing thread that I just published earlier today and some video clips. But first, a trivia question. Which president fought to abolish America's central bank in the 1830s? A, Andrew Old Hickory Jackson. B, Thomas Moneyman Jefferson. C, Teddy the Trustbuster Roosevelt. Or D, William Free Silver Bryan. Drop your answer in the chat, the comment, or the poll.
Today, indeed. Is she still a...
Okay. The showdown that Trump ignited is now boiling over. Lisa Cook still clings to her office days before... Sorry, I messed up. It's days after. Take two. And we're making sausage over here on Next News. The showdown that Trump ignited is now boiling over. Lisa Cook still clings to her office days after being fired. Jerome Powell defies Trump's direct order, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just blasted Cook on live TV, pointing out she won't even deny the mortgage fraud allegations. She just insists that Trump has no authority. Well, that defiance exposed the real crisis. Who runs America's money? Voters through their president, or unelected bankers hiding behind the myth of independence? Now, Trump's move forces the binary. Either the chief executive commands the executive branch as the Constitution demands, or the Fed itself is unconstitutional. There is no middle ground. The century-old cartel of debt slavery is trembling, and the standoff is only escalating. So keep on watching. Now, the Fed's unconstitutional power grab is finally being exposed. Just like Chuck Norris took control of his health at 84, Trump's taking control of our monetary system. Speaking of Chuck Norris, have you ever wondered what happened to this legendary martial artist? I recently saw a video that he made. I was shocked. He's in his 80s, still kicking butt and staying active. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing, and she's never felt better. Chuck made a special video, explains everything at chuckdefense.com/next. You'll find it linked in the description below. So let's check in with Scott Bessent excoriating Fed Governor Lisa Cook for refusing to let President Trump fire her after she committed mortgage fraud.
That this is putting undue pressure on the Fed, and there are people like President Trump and myself who think that if a Fed official committed mortgage fraud, that this should be examined, and that they shouldn't be serving as one of the nation's leading financial regulators. And what we haven't heard from Ms. Cook is we haven't heard her say, "I didn't do it." We haven't heard her say, "I didn't do it." She just keeps saying the president can't remove her. The other thing, too, that I have called in the recent past for an internal review of all the Fed's operations, and I've encouraged Chair Powell to do this on an internal basis before there is an external review. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be addressed, because the Fed is an unaccountable institution, and its relationship with the American people depends on a high level of trust. And incidents like this puncture that trust. So President Trump is trying to make sure that anyone who serves at this institution has the trust of the American people.
And if shouldn't there be trust? Yeah. Trust in our institutions. Rand Paul said the Fed has been cloaked in secrecy for years, but his Federal Reserve Transparency Act, which he just announced at the beginning of August, would mandate a full audit of this powerful organization. As you know, his father, Ron Paul, one of my favorite politicians, I was just at his 90th birthday party, has been gunning for the Fed for his entire political career. Rand following in his footsteps. Listen to Rand right now.
The Federal Reserve wields massive influence over our economy, but operates in secrecy with minimal oversight from Congress. During the financial crisis, the Fed secretly loaned over $16 trillion to domestic and foreign banks. My Federal Reserve Transparency Act will mandate full audits to expose Federal Reserve's dealings, to reveal the secrets, to ensure accountability to the American people.
Rand Paul, everybody. Now, let's take a closer look at this thread that we just dropped earlier today. 51,000 hits on this, 593 shares, 2,000 hearts. Definitely making an impact. This is what they don't want you to hear. Trump's battle with the Fed has exposed a constitutional showdown that terrifies the swamp. Either he can fire Lisa Cook as chief executive, or the entire Federal Reserve stands revealed as unconstitutional. Let's dive in. Now, Trump holds Article 2 power. The Constitution makes him chief executive. If governors like Lisa Cook can defy the law, then who really runs America? Well, the answer is unelected bankers hiding behind the lie of independence. And Trump says no more. Article 2, my friends, he holds the power. Now, critics are going to scream illegal, but think if the president appoints officials, why shouldn't he remove them? The founders never intended a central bank cartel to hold more power than the White House. This fight is bigger than Cook. It is about sovereignty, the sovereignty of we the people. Now, the Federal Reserve was birthed in 1913 by backroom bankers at Jekyll Island, a place I've personally visited and had lunch with G. Edward Griffin in. No constitutional amendment, no approval by the people, just a debt machine unleashed on America, and Trump is ripping off the mask, showing the emperor has no clothes. Now, Lisa Cook is not the issue. She is the symptom. Inflation, manipulated interest rates, collapsing savings accounts. That's the Fed's legacy. And every time the people suffer, the bankers cash in. Trump's threat exposes the entire rotten edifice. So here's the binary that they fear. Option 1, Trump has power as chief executive. Cook is gone. Option 2, if they claim he doesn't, then the Fed itself is unconstitutional, therefore abolish it. There is no wiggle room, there is no hiding, and that is why they are sweating. Now, the Fed operates like a fourth branch of government, accountable to no voters, no oversight, no constitution. Presidents rise and fall, Congress bickers, but the Fed stays in power, and Trump just detonated the illusion of independence. Now, remember Andrew Jackson? He fought the central bank in the 1830s, calling it a hydra of corruption. Trump is channeling that same spirit now. The swamp cannot handle a president willing to confront their golden idol of endless debt. Yes, kill the bank. Now, mainstream media will frame this as Trump versus Lisa Cook. Wrong. It is Trump versus the globalist system. If he wins, the Fed's grip loosens. If he's blocked, their independence is revealed as unconstitutional tyranny. Either way, checkmate. Now, this is not just about America's money. It's about who rules America. A president chosen by the people or unelected bankers running monetary policy in secret. Trump's move forces that question into the light. The swamp is absolutely terrified. Trump wielding the power of we the people. Now, critics will cry, the markets will crash, but the truth, the crash already happened. Our wealth drained by inflation, our savings gutted. The Fed caused it. Trump daring to challenge them is the first step towards restoring accountability. People want accountability. Every single lawyer, every banker, every media mouthpiece is sweating like the meme guy at two buttons. Admit Trump has firing power or admit the Fed is unconstitutional. Either path leads to their defeat. That is the binary choice. The bankers sweating. This is history in motion. Trump versus the Fed, sovereignty versus slavery, Constitution versus the cartel. They can mock, they can sue, but they can't escape the truth. America is waking up. I love this picture right here. Donald Trump and the Fed. I think he has just found their Achilles heel. Now, Ross Gibbons writing, well put, all true. What happened with auditing Fort Knox? I certainly want to know. Here we have this. Its real empire isn't a flag, it's a ledger. The City of London cabal headquarters with the Bank of International Settlements, the ECB Frankfurt, the Federal Reserve, and the IMF World Bank. And that is with the City of London. They stayed here at the center. Now, going to bring the entire system down. It'll be interesting to see what happens. People don't see it, but what the Fed does doesn't matter perhaps more than what most presidents do. Let's see here. There was another picture. I mean, a lot of people comment. Okay, this is the picture I was looking for. This is the government of the United States, right? At the very top, you can see, let me see if I can zoom in better for you. The Constitution and the executive branch. Follow those solid black lines on this graph, and you will find that the Federal Reserve is underneath the executive branch. All right? It is directly through the executive branch. So this entire move, now, at first glance, I admit, I was just like, okay, he's firing a Fed governor. I didn't consider the significance until I started looking deeper into the topic. I said, wait a second. This is actually genius, because no president has ever done this in 111 years. He's challenging the banking monopoly in this country. And this is the perfect method to do so. Now, check this out. This is what is really going to make people confused. Eric Daugherty posting this just 4 hours ago. The markets have gained ever since President Trump announced the firing of Democrat Fed Governor Lisa Cook. The exact opposite of what the experts said.
If he did not, everyone was saying last week that if Trump fired Lisa Cook, the stock market would crash and bond yields would go up. The exact opposite has happened. It's once again a repudiation of the expert class. President Trump is holding people accountable. In fact, if he did not hold Lisa Cook accountable, that would have posed a risk for markets, because they would actually question the rule of law in America, and that's something that markets do not tolerate.
James Fishback, you are a tough guy. We'll see you again real soon. Thank you, Jay.
The markets reacting positively. Trump stated that the president of the Fed, Jerome Powell, would step down quickly, wait for the rate cuts. We're still waiting for Jerome Powell to step down. I don't think so. I think that we're going to see the rate cuts instead, because that's what President Trump is demanding. Okay, so who is Lisa Cook? This is Lisa Cook, right there on your screen. The nonpartisan Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook said in 2020 that Donald Trump was definitely a fascist. She would commit mortgage fraud a year later. Watch.
And embraces that. We have seen this before. And that's why my European friends told me before Trump was elected not to make fun of what was happening, to take very seriously what was happening, because they've had recent skirmishes with fascism. They know the impact of fascism. And this guy is definitely a fascist and embraces that, and will sow divisions in this country that that will take a long time to mend. We have seen this.
Oh, yeah. They are nonpartisan over there at the Federal Reserve, they say. I guess her own mouth speaks differently. Here we have Lisa Cook still working for the Fed despite President Trump firing her on Monday. What is going on? Why is Jerome Powell defying a lawful order from the duly elected president of the United States? Jennifer-isms just broke news on Yahoo Finance.
Emails continuing. Is she still a Fed governor, and what comes next?
That's right, Allie. Lisa Cook's lawyers expected to file a lawsuit today in D.C. federal court fighting the president's firing of her. In the meantime, in view of pending court action, the Fed has deferred a decision on her status. In other words, she still works for the Fed, likely has access to her emails, continuing to be able to work. Whether she actually goes into the Federal Reserve building or not is an open question. And of course, depending on how long this legal battle goes, the bigger question is what happens at the FOMC meeting on September 16th and 17th if we're still in this situation. But this legal battle potentially kicking off today.
Is she still a Fed governor?
She's still there, refusing to leave. This is going to be a massive standoff. Let's check in with the National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett talking about the Fed.
Hiking rate. No, I think what the president believes, and I think that there are a lot of observers that agree with him, is that this Fed hasn't really been independent. That if you look at their movements to let inflation get out of control, to potentially jack up the economy right ahead of the election for Kamala Harris, to begin hiking rates the minute President Trump was elected back or took office in 2017, there was a pretty troubling partisan pattern, and the partisan pattern is in the rhetoric too. So one of the things I think was most interesting about the Jackson Hole meeting with Jay Powell is that the Fed, all the way since January, has been saying, contrary to economic theory, that inflation was going to skyrocket because of tariffs and that they had to have high rates because of tariffs. And as the Council of Economic Advisors report that just came out shows, that in fact import prices have gone down during the tariff episode. And Jay Powell now admits that they were wrong about tariffs and inflation at the Jackson Hole meeting. And so I think that was a productive debate. But what they did is they stuck themselves into the middle of a partisan non-monetary policy discussion, and they were wrong about it.
Okay, so I just asked ChatGPT, how can Donald Trump end the Federal Reserve legally in light of Lisa Cook's firing? Give it to me straight narrative with no extra commentary. Let's hear what ChatGPT has to say. Oh, hang on. There we go.
Here's the straight narrative. The Federal Reserve was created by Congress in 1913 through the Federal Reserve Act. Because it is a statutory entity, not a constitutional one, it exists only as long as Congress allows it to exist. The President cannot unilaterally abolish the Federal Reserve, but he can influence its future through several legal avenues. First, the President can call on Congress to repeal or amend the Federal Reserve Act. With sufficient support in both chambers, Congress could pass legislation to restructure or even dissolve the Fed, and the President could sign that bill into law. Second, the President can exert executive authority over appointments. The Constitution makes the President responsible for nominating members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, subject to Senate confirmation. By removing or replacing officials, as in the case of firing Lisa Cook, and nominating new members aligned with his vision, the President can shift the direction of the Fed's policy. Third, the President can use his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, by directing the Treasury and other executive agencies to prepare for alternative monetary frameworks if Congress moves to curtail or repeal the Federal Reserve Act. In short, to legally end the Federal Reserve, the President must work through Congress to repeal the law that created it, while simultaneously reshaping the board through his appointment power to align with that objective.
If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So this is Andrew Jackson versus the central bank all over again. Jackson called it a hydra of corruption and constitutional sword. The Fed operated for over a century as an unaccountable fourth branch of government, manipulating rates to help their friends and punish their enemies. Powell refusing to fire Cook after a lawful presidential order proves that they think they're above the law, but Trump's trap is genius. If he can't fire her, then the entire Federal Reserve Act is unconstitutional. No private banking cartel should control America's money supply. That power belongs to Congress and the elected president, not shadowy bankers meeting in secret. Rand Paul's been calling for an audit for years. And Trump's going further. He's exposing their entire fraudulent system. 40 chess on steroids. So here's the question. Should America return to the gold standard? End fiat currency manipulation forever? Drop your answer below. And while you're fired up, check out our Next News merch shop and show the world where you stand. All right. No new super chats to speak of. Okay. All right. Well, you guys are here. It's my stapler. Yes, most definitely, says the one and only Ron the Don. My stapler. She can't keep the stapler. Can't wait till it's all exposed, Joseph. Yes, it's happening. They are happy. Isn't it genius? Think about the choice they have to make. Either fire her, or if he can't fire her, then the whole thing's unconstitutional. It's genius. Still love you, though, Gary, says Michael. Not sure what that was about, but hey, love you too, man. I keep missing lives. Great to see everyone. What's up, Jeremy? All right, what is the answer to our trivia question? You guys said it was Old Hickory. Andrew Old Hickory Jackson called the central bank a hydra of corruption and successfully killed it in 1833. So what a show, folks. Today we witness history through the eyes of a man who shaped it for nearly half a century. Roger Stone at 73 didn't just give us an interview. He handed us the blueprint for the deep state's destruction. So think about what we've uncovered today. Trump has engineered a constitutional checkmate against the Federal Reserve. Either he can fire Lisa Cook for her documented mortgage fraud, or the entire Fed system stands exposed as unconstitutional. There is no escape from that logic. The same banking cartel that enslaved America with debt since 1913 finally faces its reckoning. And then we saw how George Soros, the man that Biden decorated with the Medal of Freedom, now faces potential RICO charges. Trump and Musk united to expose the dark money funding violent protests across our nation. 400% increase in paid agitators since Trump took office, $20 million flooding the streets. The receipts are undeniable. In Chicago, we witnessed a city crying out for salvation while its leaders play politics with people's lives. 1,600 officers short, emergency calls unanswered, citizens begging for the National Guard while Mayor Johnson claims housing will stop bullets. The contrast with D.C. couldn't be starker, where Trump acted or to return. Union Station transformed in a week from a crime-ridden embarrassment to a symbol of American renewal. In international, Thailand's betrayal of Trump's Cambodia ceasefire while buying Chinese submarines shows the global nature of this fight. The same forces undermining American sovereignty at home are empowering our enemies abroad. So thanks to everyone who sent in super chats and rumble rants tonight. You guys keep the truth machine running over here. Your support through our merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com helps us stay independent when big tech wants us silent. So tell a friend about the raw feed, text them a link, share it on social, break through the algorithm. It's not about politics anymore. This is a climactic battle between American sovereignty and globalist control, between elected accountability and banker tyranny, between order and chaos, between truth and lies. Roger Stone survived their persecution, Trump survived their attacks, and now they're delivering the knockout blow to the system that's enslaved us for over a century. The establishment thought they'd won. They thought we'd given up. Well, they thought wrong. So keep fighting, keep sharing, keep watching, because tomorrow we'll be back with more explosive truth they don't want to hear. This is Gary Franchi for the Raw Feed, reminding you that in the war for America's soul, silence is surrender, and the truth is our greatest weapon. We'll see you on the next show. Have a great night.